All right. Hello, everybody out there in Harry Norman Nation. I'd like to welcome you to the latest installment of our HNR radio podcast. I am super stoked about today's guest that's with us, and you may have been seeing him lately. I think if he keeps it up, he's going to become the next star on HGTV, maybe called Selling Atlanta, because he has just been killing it with his videos with John Howard, his teammate there. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But for those of you that don't know Butch Whitfield, he is an agent of ours in our in-town office. And Butch, if you wouldn't mind just kind of introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about you, maybe your family, how you got into real estate, anything you want to share with the group.
Thank you, Todd. Well, thank you for having me. This is, it's definitely not something I would have pictured myself doing a year ago. I guess all of us sort of feel that way. However, when I first started, I assume everybody might know this, that my parents, we have a family firm in Burlington, North Carolina, and my mother is now a broker in charge. My dad handed this off to her a couple of years ago. So I've gotten two brokers. I probably have three brokers in my life right now. However, my parents started this back in the 80s. No, actually, it's funny. My birth certificate is in my office that my dad drafted on a purchase and sale agreement as sort of like a birth announcement. It's, they gave that to me for my birthday years ago, framed it. And so my dread was measuring houses with my father or being with him, showing property on a Saturday morning when I'd rather be watching cartoons. I truly thought this would be the absolute last thing I would ever do in my life. My background's in landscape architecture, so I always imagined myself being knee-deep in potting soil in a conservatory or garden someplace. So here I am.
Well, you didn't stand a chance if your birth certificate's literally on the back of a purchase and sale agreement, right? You were doomed from the beginning, from birth, to get into real estate eventually.
Absolutely. And
that's awesome.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, so my parents, they're, again, from North Carolina. I'm from Virginia, moved here or we have a farm in Virginia where my roots were. And I moved here as a landscape architect and got into Harry Norman because we, against Jenny Pruitt, we were the only two luxury brands in the city at the time. And we didn't have budgets, basically. It was amazing. We just designed, and it was incredible. And that's why I took this job. And it happened to be that the firm that sold most of the homes that we were managing, designing, building was Harry Norman. And another interesting part, though, was that I maintained the pots on my way back into work, into our shop. We would go swing by Jenny Pruitt's office, and I was in charge of making sure there weren't any dead things out there and just water them real quick amongst the bigger properties that we managed. So, it really does come full circle. It's really funny.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. I had no idea you were in the landscape architecture. When I was in college, I tried to dip my toe in that pond, and then I soon realized I couldn't draw for what. So I soon got out of landscape architecture, but I still love to play in the dirt and, consider myself the weekend warrior, gardener / designer. So that's good stuff.
Funny you say so. That's the slogan or slogan of Pike. And get my Atlanta for a fun summer in hot Atlanta, I took an internship at Pike just to get the heck out of Raleigh and move here. And then I had too much fun in college. So I went and did a couple of stints at summer school and then made my way back.
So remind me again, you got into the business when?
In 2003. I moved here in 2001.
Okay. All right. So 2003, you came in the midst of the heyday leading up to 2008, 2009, a time many of us don't want to remember. But kind of what were some of the reasons, you mentioned that, it was us and JP that were the only two luxury brands, and you were familiar with us just because you were doing a lot of work in yards and stuff. But was there anything else that kind of prompted you to make the decision of Harry Norman versus going anywhere else?
There was my broker here told me I needed to go interview a couple other brokers. And I was like, why? Because why? I know it sounds like this is what every brand wants to hear maybe, but why go with anybody else just because they all in my mind seemed lesser. And so I mean, I went because he told me to before I could truly start. But Jenny Pro is just a smaller company in the North. Uh, this was the only player in the game that I've wanted to be a part of. And so yes, that's truly why.
Well, awesome. Well, we are thrilled that you made that decision way back down in 2003. I'm sure it seems like a long, long time ago, and you've learned a lot of lessons along the way, which I know that I'm sure that our people listening online will like to have you share, and we'll get to that again in a moment. But I know that I think, if my memory serves me correctly, you were you were in the first installation that we had as far as Ninja goes. Do I have that right? I think you were in the first.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot of, to your character, and speaks volumes in terms of, you can never know everything in this business. And the fact that you decided, even though you had the great experience, a good track record, a highly productive agent leading up to that, that you chose to participate in that. Were there any takeaways for you as somebody experienced that, just have resonated and you've stuck with since taking that about 2 years ago?
Well, I think the things that really sold me on Ninja at the luxury portfolio at a conference in Vegas, which I believe it was you and me, and there was, I believe, one other agent who went into that condensed sit-in during that conference. And I mean, that right there gave me enough tools to really get my spring started strong. And I'm really glad that is what helped lure that approach to our company, or our company to that approach. And from there, I mean, it really just set in more of a strategy and organized my career differently than what I had been. That my parents' school of thought was, and is still a valid one. It was just different from this, and it almost resonated with me more. And I used this in a conversation a while back. It like really helped recalibrate how I was handling the whole approach.
Gotcha. Great. Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Newbie or very seasoned agents, it always seems like they walk away with 2 or 3 real things that impact them and that they carry forward and has made a big difference for them. So tell me about a typical day in the life of Butch. What does that look like?
Oh, well, I mean, I think like everybody, it's different right now. But it still starts off with doing something. I have to get physical. I have to break a sweat. And it's just a little later in the day than it was when I was coming into the office. I hated it when Nancy would show, my marketing coordinator, she's my right hand, when she would be at the office before me, and she comes in at 10. So, things can get out of the blue sometimes at home. However, I have to go to the gym or run or do something. So now I start my day off by, I have a training session in the morning. I'll typically read a chapter or two because I'm picking up oils and painting. So I'm picking up a little bit more of a hobby. And then it's just off to the races. There's a certain, that Ninja book allows me to keep on a schedule because it tracks not only what my CRM does throughout the month to remind me of things I need to do. However, this is a day-to-day priority list. And it helps me keep on track because I know before I sign off for the day, I need to have at least accomplished those or determined what can just be pushed to the next day. So it's a matter of handling the fires and then handling all my tasks. The Ninja approach really drove home the fact that I need to make a certain number of calls and keep some numbers that are consistent throughout my day. The calls are they're good for a couple different reasons. One is that it keeps you in touch with your people, obviously. 2, it keeps that conversation muscle trained. And honestly, if I'm having a bad day, I find, well, one, I need to talk myself out of it real quick because we're not allowed to have a bad day. But the second part is talking to my clients really puts me back in a good mood. And it's, anyway, just interacting. As maybe cheesy as that sounds, it does. Talking to my clients really helped me, whether they're, just been in their home for 10 years, have no intention of moving, just to see how their roof was from a storm they had, or inviting them to, an event that you're planning. For instance, right now, I'm not hard selling. I guess I never really hard sell, but inviting them to stuff. Typically, it would have been to a soccer game, or tickets to an opera, or a big bowling event. Now it's more individual experiences. So, for instance, now I've engaged my trainer to teach a distancing boot camp in a way. And so that we have this big facility that we go to. So now it allows me to have this conversation, a reason to reach out to them and invite them to something that they have no commitments afterward. But it's and I find that type of experience is much more, engaging and rewarding.
Yeah, well, you make some great points there. The first is that it's really all about finding, cultivating, and building relationships, and that requires both going to some ninja terms, some auto flow, which are things that just kind of happen automatic in the background, and then the live flow, which is what you're talking about in terms of picking up the phone, having conversations. With everything that's been going on lately, it's been challenging to do anything other than pick up the phone. Certainly you can try and have communications like this, which probably is maybe a bit awkward or different, from what then getting together and going to coffee or going to lunch or doing these things like you would do in person. But it's so important. And I'm glad to hear you say that you've gotten really creative. And I love the idea of getting your training guy there to offer some classes. And you're offering something of value, and you're not asking anything in return for it.
Back to Lolo in a way, which I love Lolo, because his business has been cut by 50%. So, and it's also, we were just doing this while doing lunches one day. I was like, man, how's your business? And because we talk about that a lot. And so I thought, man, this is going to translate really well and almost getting you more business and me more engaged. And I think everybody's going to benefit from it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's about helping, it's about helping somebody, not really expecting anything in return. And that's the beauty of it. And, when I was chatting with Lisa Murphy a couple months ago, that was her whole thing, like a lot of ninja is just, kind of the whole, what was the platinum rule, right? Remember the platinum rule? And doing unto others as they want done unto themselves. And, and just not expecting anything from anything that you're doing. So that's awesome. So you talked about the getting up and working out. It kind of sounds like that's a daily non-negotiable for you to kind of set the stage and set the pace. Are there any other daily non-negotiables that you do in terms of your business?
I was reading an article this morning. It's a reminder of getting people in your car. And now it's more like get people in a carpool. So be engaged unless you're getting them out there, because it's really what this digital piece is adding to the search is a huge gap in how they translate, how you translate over this out of the internet or through the internet, and then how the home translates too. So if you see yourself as like, oh God, I didn't imagine it looked that way. Imagine a house, and it's a static thing. And unless we get people in our car and out there looking, they're going to get complacent, and then they're going to get tired, and then they're going to fall off of what their goals are. If their goal is to find a house, we need to get them in the house. And there's a lot more layers of technology involved with plastic and chemicals to protect everybody. However, we need to continue doing that in order to help them meet their goals, whether it's to get out from underneath a mortgage they can't afford anymore, or get into a better house that can allow them the space to grow.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm not sure if I'm even on topic with your questions anymore.
No, you are. I mean, it's really kind of going to like how you are adapting currently, and to your point. And again, I want to jump into all the awesome stuff you're doing with YouTube and the open houses and things like that in a moment. But that's just really an extension or an effort to what you used to do in terms of getting people out into the houses so they can see it, touch it, feel it, all of that kind of thing. So it's really cool that you feel like, and it's like I had the opportunity to see you yesterday at the designer showcase house, and it was really kind of neat to see all of our agents out and about, and I couldn't if I had a dollar for every time I heard, it's so nice just to be around other people again, as we're starting to come out from underneath this. I think to your point of getting, your clients, I mean, we're all tired of maybe being behind the screen a little bit, and it's nice to get back out and engaged in some way, shape, or form. And I think we'll continue to see that as the weeks and months unfold. So let's talk about the videos and what you've been doing, and just, I know you've been always active on social media, but you've really taken it up a notch with regards to what you're doing with YouTube and the videos and with John. And so I'd love for you to just touch on that a little bit. Kind of, where did the inspiration come from? Maybe some lessons that you've learned along the way. I've enjoyed kind of watching you from your first video to the latest one, and the kind of like going from the caterpillar to the butterfly, and it's, it's constant, tweaks and, enhancements and that kind of thing. So tell us a little bit about all that.
Well, John's here somewhere in the back here. Well, God, John, what started us? I mean, I think it was the fact that we weren't doing anything. John had business for, what do we say, like, about
3 months.
3 months, and all of a sudden things dried up, and I was like, we got to get John on the road. I got to get out of my house. What are we gonna do? And so we started these videos, and I didn't have any listings at the time, so I was really fortunate that we were able to engage some of our agents who had some really stellar properties, and just work on that. And so I think our first video, it took us like 4 hours to shoot. And even looking back, I don't know why. It was so immature-ish. I mean, I found myself saying, oh, I need to say that better. Oh, I need to say this more. And then to now, it takes us, I mean, we're about to shoot one this afternoon again. It will maybe take us a half an hour to do one that we've now learned it needs to be 5 minutes max, because of multiple reasons, but 5 minutes. I mean, we were up to like 11. I mean, it's really hard to, I mean, I talk a lot.
It's hard to edit Butch down. It's really hard to cut his words down. So
I've got so much interesting stuff to say, but it is tough. And you're just going on and on. I mean, I want to talk about the mahogany doors and the details that you can't see in the video. But at the end of the day, I'm really trying to get them to the door, in through the door, But it was fun. I mean, it's a blast. And now we've moved on into, branding this, and then now talking about neighborhoods. And I think the next step for us is to now talk about the process and all the things you encounter on not only from a client perspective, but even an agent perspective, so that we can, I guess, make more of an impact and, well, have fun, because we both really enjoy it. And I like making John, because he is so uncomfortable in front of the television and in front of the camera.
in front of the camera, I can tell you that. It just feels more natural.
Yeah.
And life goes into these.
Oh my God.
It takes, a lot of time to put those together. So Butch just kind of flies off his tongue. So
he's our editor. But it's amazing, like, my 4-letter words are not coming as fluid as they used to. That's one thing I've had to really work on.
Yeah, right. So I'm just curious. Well, first of all, one thing that I noticed that you have been doing too, and what I see a lot of agents, because I've been watching a lot of the different virtual stuff, is initially you were relying on the microphone of your phone camera, I think. And now I notice you've got the lavaliers and capturing that sound a lot more effectively, which I think is a huge key to video, is adequately getting the sound and the audio. I noticed in a couple of the early videos, you're catching the wind blowing in and so forth and so on.
It's windy. Nobody knows it until they're out filming a video in it.
Yeah.
And nobody knows how many leaf blowers are blowing, how many cars go by. We would just look at each other and just laugh. What else are you going to do? But yes,
it's
proper equipment, we found that is that's what you need. And it's not expensive.
No, it really isn't. I mean, it's pretty affordable. And again, the audio, I think, however you capture it is critical to, you know, the videos and so forth. I'm curious, have you seen, and I love the branding that you've done now at the introductions and the music that plays, and it's the consistent look and feel. And I see you're giving the kudos to John there, which again, it's all about that, you know, the consistency and the branding. And obviously you've got your YouTube channel. But have you seen an uptick in just page visits to your website or just general activity as a result of, you know, some of these things that you're doing?
You bring a really good question. That's a great question.
Well, I would imagine you probably would be.
His last Facebook Live, he called me like the next day and we were talking about it. And I said, well, you're up to, you know, he goes, you know, I had a few views there. Well, I was like, well, you're way past 300 today.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, so I think the growth of doing these and making people more aware of them and building the brand is going to help us, you know, to grow all those.
Yeah, I think just by virtue of the fact, too, that Google Big Brother owns YouTube, the two work in concert with, you know, SEO and everything else. So while you may not know the actual metrics right now, I know that will be a task that you soon embark upon, but I can't imagine that it's not having a positive impact with you kind of tying everything together.
We'll see. We're having a good time.
Well, and they really are great, and they're informative. And I love the other point that you make about keeping it to at least, you know, 5 minutes or less, because everybody's got, I think, video and just multimedia ADD these days, and we got so many things vying for our attention. And you know, the consumer, they'll stay engaged for a couple of minutes, and then they're on to the next thing. So another great tip that you shared. Anything else? I know that when you participated in the open house or the virtual open house conversation from a couple weeks ago, you talked about, I think, a stabilization of your camera or something like that, and the use of cue cards. Are you still using the cue cards, or are you more like in it now?
That's part of the windy property. I mean, the windy component that was messy because they became like sails in the wind. You know, we'd have this big tripod, and it was really great too because I'm sort of a history nut, and I'm still tweaking this camera as we're talking. So we were coming up with all these really awesome stats for the city, for the park, for Buckhead, which we're about to shoot. That it starts to, first of all, I'll go off on a random tangent. So it helps us get our life together. So yes, definitely cue cards. The other tricks are the equipment in general. And then the other one is playing off each other and being comfortable with each other. Now, John and I have been friends for, since 2002, 3, something like that. So anyway, long time. And so the point is that we're comfortable with each other, and we're opposites. So, you know, he's very stoic and direct, and he's a very he needs his script. I will riff for like 15 minutes and then forget what we were even talking about. So I don't even know what your question is anymore, but
that's all right. Well, you know, here's the thing. You guys could be the next Property Brothers. John, do you have any kind of construction background to partner with Butch's landscape architecture expertise?
Tips in the world, and I can't talk about it because he's signed all these NDAs. But if you buy a house from us, we'll tell you all about
it. Well, listen, this is a nice tie-in or segue into what I wanted to talk to you about next is, I know you've had a team for a while, Butch, but can you talk to us a little bit about when you made that jump or step going from an individual single agent to bringing on that admin support or that next person? You know, what was the catalyst? Maybe what were some things that you learned along the way in terms of, you know, what that metamorphosis has been like? And just, you know, because we got a lot of agents out there that always are like, I think I might need that help. I don't know what to do or when to pull the trigger, that kind of thing. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, I guess it first came from the coaching of my parents. I had a business, I had a coach. My mother's a broker and coach with their team, and then she has clients around the country. And so that by the urging of her and my coach, I found out I needed to do it. It wasn't probably, I mean, I was 29 maybe at the time that I started getting at my support. And so management was not a strong point of mine. However, I needed to start something because the paperwork even back then was overwhelming. Now it's heavy on website connectivity and handling all those types of things. So it's different, but the same. And I just realized by their guidance that I needed somebody to help me with all this. And delegation is key in being and becoming your best, because like John, there's stuff John doesn't like to do, and so we just do each other's stuff, and Nancy does the stuff that neither of us like to do or know how to do. And I was finding that I wasn't doing certain things, like simple stuff like maintaining my database and managing consistent mailings. I mean, this is like basic real estate, and I wasn't doing that. So that's what prompted me to start with that. Which was honestly one of the hardest things ever, which is to find a partner to work and that you trust to handle your day-to-day. I've learned a lot from about I think Nancy is my 5th assistant. I shouldn't say assistant. Nancy is my 5th marketing coordinator, client care manager, as we call her. That's what her title is. And that whole process evolved. And then taking on people that you want to work with, that's a whole nother mindset shift too. It's finding somebody that has your same drive, but also different. And evaluating those personalities and understanding what your own strengths are so that you can then pair up with a person or people that share, and we all have different growths and different goals. However, that's I think the core is understanding what you want out of life and what they want out of life, and making sure that we all have the same general goal for our careers. And I feel like I've been burning out too. But anyway, that's a different story. But I think what got me going with that is having someone urge me to do it, finding the right connections, and then getting your systems in place. That's now that, I found an old process and procedures manual that we wrote right before the recession. And we're just now getting another one typed out that's completely different, because none of those sites even exist anymore. And now we're handling everything digitally. And that's a whole nother complication, but another gift, because it's so much easier to see who's looking at your ads and where they're coming from and the duration of their visit. So in a way, it's even better. I love it.
So it sounds like, for the most part, your marketing person, has it always been more of a marketing person and like a support person, or have you ever had just like a buyer's agent or anything like that, or has that been more just the marketing support and making sure the database and then mailings go out and things like that?
We tried the buyer's agent, listing agent thing, but what we found was that, and this was many years ago during the recession, that we found that this is a relationships industry, and people don't want to just be shifted from one person to the next. And my father was also having this issue. They felt like, oh, well, Steve doesn't have time for any more when it came to buy my house. That's my father, Steve. And so they felt as if they were just pushed away, when really, from a realtor perspective, it was, I'm trying to find you someone who's specializing in doing what you need done. And that didn't translate well. So if you do have those specialists, you do need to make that as clear as day is that you're doing this to help them, but still stay engaged with them if that's something you choose to do.
It's a great point. Just so five team members later, anything that you've learned along the way, mistakes that were potentially made that you learned from, or just, again, tips or advice to give to those who are thinking about expanding?
Well, you need to. I mean, that's just, you have to. There's no way you can do it all. You need to have time off, and you're not good at everything. And if you think you are, you're not. Or if you are, that's awesome. You probably just don't enjoy it, you know? So that's the other part. Enjoy what you do. Love what you do. And I wrote down a couple things in preparation for this from another article I was reading this morning. You have to love what you do, and you have to be inspired. And I think the people on your team are going to be those that inspire you. I think the other thing is you reap what you sow. And when you help other people, you know, I've got a great mentee right now, and he is just, he's doing really well. I think, unfortunately, it was tempered a little bit with the experience we're going through, but still, it's really fun to see where he's going. And I know that these relationships will also help me, whether it's the way in which I feel, and, you know, I feel better after helping them. But then again, it's also going to help me if I'm like, you know, just need time off and I need some help from them. I know that's also going to be the benefit of having a team, and or just people that work with you, whether it's called a team or not. That's one of the benefits of sticking around in a company so long, is that you start to cement these relationships. It's tough when you see people go. However, it's just part of the industry. People feel that they can, you know, get more by going to another company, when it's just, you know, it's the same. It's not the same. It's a different experience when it's really all up here. And I think that's essentially what the challenge with this industry is to get out of your head, enjoy what you love, take some time off, and just make the most of it.
I love that. That's definitely a player mentality, Butch, not a victim mentality, going back to some ninja again. You know, I'm curious, because a lot of what I hear too when people are trying to make a decision on whether or not they should start a team or bring on an admin or something like that is this notion of, well, nobody can do it better than me. And, you know, this fear of giving up control. So did you have any of those issues, and how did you kind of reconcile those?
Anything I've delegated too quickly without giving thorough instruction of what I wanted or what I saw, because there's certain things I'm not one to categorize my clients earlier, like A, B, C, D. Prioritize your clients, focus on the ones that are most important. Although I know it's important, those things sometimes weren't the most important to me. And so when I would delegate something, my biggest learn from that was that I needed to be more clear in what I needed them to do. So that was one. The communication is just key. Being process oriented is again, such a time saver. There's a lot of upfront time that goes into it, but it really will help you in the long run. And in growing the team, again, I think that I've forgotten sort of the question, but I think if it's to what prompted me to do this again, maybe what I've learned from it. I think it's what I've learned from it. You know, we're all different. And I think we've all got different goals and paths in our life. And it's just being patient with people and supportive of them. And, you know, if we don't end up being good team members, because I've got two buddies that were part of the team, you know, a couple of years ago, and they've gone off and gone their own direction, which is cool. And it's just, you know, just be aware that friends before colleagues. And I think, you know, just be patient. And so that there's still a relationship, if and ultimately maybe when there's a termination of that.
Yeah, great point. I mean, you know, business is business, friendships are friendships. Hopefully there's an opportunity to, you know, blend the two, but you are going to have, I don't know of, well, I shouldn't say this. I know few people who have had the same assistant for their entire career, or their same partner, or whatever the case may be. Change is inevitable. So those are some great points. So switching gears a little bit, you know, obviously since the mid-March or beginning of March, this has just been, you know, like nothing else none of us has ever seen. There is no playbook for it. And as we have been going through it, we've been making adjustments and doing the best we can to kind of keep it business as usual. But as we continue to kind of come up out of this and start coming more out into, doing open houses again and getting out and showing property again, are there any things that you have begun doing that you anticipate continuing to do as we, get back to the new normal?
It's all an experiment right now. I'm really still trying to find the best way to get in front of people, because I think we've got a good message in that, we've got some amazing homes to show them. It's a matter of how we get in front of those people. So I know that the side benefits to all this digital marketing is that it's not weather dependent anymore. Just because we've had, I remember 2 summers ago, it just seemed to rain. Everything was covered in mildew and water all summer. And I think that was really depressing. And it seemed to only rain on weekends. I'm not sure what was up with that. But anyway, I feel like there's little obstacles that we're going to be able to overcome with digital. First of all, it continues to run. You don't have to actually be filming when it's, these are going to continue to go on. You can post them on your website. And hopefully, it's a love-hate relationship with some of these search platforms. However, investing in them to get leads isn't, it's just, they love you as long as you love them. So when you stop paying them money, your leads stop. So hopefully this digital platform that we create on our website will continue to bring us business without us having to fork over $1,000 every month. And I think that's one of the benefits that will come out of this is, one, our comfort with being in front of a camera. Because again, and for those people who don't and are not, take a Toastmasters course. For some reason, I decided to take one like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, I'm comfortable with this already. But, it helped me hone my skills, recognize things that people do and don't like to see from a person speaking in front of them, different traits to look out for. And anyway, that's really helpful. It's just fun. When I went to one in Buckhead, it was wonderful. I think it was Peachtree Toastmasters up at one of the churches up at Jesus Junction. The second one is that's what I call it. I thought that everybody calls it. So, okay, that, and just comfort with more of these tools. You're going to have to reach outside your comfort zone and expand your tool. Because we can't just rely upon our relationships, because, those people move. And what's that other ninja statistic? You've got to grow your database. Is it 10 or 20% a year, or it's eventually going to go away? And this is an easy. Well, it's easy for me. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I love what you say too about the, getting comfortable in front of the camera and, going outside of your comfort zone. And I think the thing too is that a lot of agents get hung up with the notion of, well, it's got to be absolutely perfect. It has to almost look like it's been, produced in a studio. It's got to be like that HGTV quality. And honestly, I think the more sometimes real they are, it shows the human element to it. And I meant to mention earlier, I love the fact that you're starting to showcase some of the neighborhoods and do things beyond the houses, because so much of what people look for beyond the house is the lifestyle around the home, and the ability, to walk to this or that, or the access to parks or shopping or whatever the case may be. So it's really neat to see you doing that.
About the person, about polished, video or time on screen. I think an agent brought this to me. One of the most viewed videos of agents in the city is a woman who just walks around making comments in open houses and caravans that she visits, or homes she's showing. It's totally off the cuff. And it's pretty interesting. I guess people start to find her comments really entertaining. I haven't personally seen her, but be inspired. Go to the web and find agents to inspire you to find your own way of handling this. Because it's not like, people people like different personalities, and my personality, I'm not going to please everybody. And, you know, there's going to be people that find your approach, the approach that they appreciate.
Yeah. Awesome points. Awesome points. Have you been experimenting at all with doing anything like Facebook Live or doing live on Instagram? I just learned how to do live on Instagram this past weekend from my 18-year-old daughter.
My first couple open houses, I was doing them for an hour, and I was doing 4 a weekend, I think. So maybe 2 or 3 on Saturday, 2 or 3 on Sunday. And I was doing that like the first couple months of COVID, and nothing. I was catching up with people around the world that were my friends on Facebook or wherever I put my ads. It was funny. I had people from Montreal to LA out to Denmark. It was cool, but it wasn't getting me any business. So I moved on then to Facebook Live. That was 2 weeks ago. Holy cow, that is exhausting in that I'm working with it. Now I've got a format, and I've got a little game we play, and I had some in the house, and you can watch me. My first one was a 1,500 square foot condo that was 3 levels. It's beautiful. Try walking up and down 2 flights of stairs to 3 levels and 1,500 square feet for an hour and find something interesting to talk about. Now, granted, this is an amazing home. However, it gets exhausting. So my trick, find something big as your first one to just get the flow. And yeah, Facebook Live, that's my latest journey.
Awesome. Well, I guess it suffices to say that you got your steps in that day.
Yeah, it was. There's spikes. Funny to watch that. I go through it because, again, you start making fun of yourself on these videos. You're like, oh, I can't wait to see what my phone actually thinks I'm doing today. But yeah, it's funny. That's
awesome. So you mentioned your mentee a little bit ago, and I kind of want to transition back to say I'm a new agent, brand new into the business, and I happen to have the fortune of being down there in the in-town office with you and with Avery, and they come up to you and they say, Butch, I want to be like Butch. What do I need to do to get successful and get started in this business?
You need to be you. So right down. Okay, plan your day. That's key. I think that comes up in our Ninja book. That really helps you. The second one is prioritize your relationships. There's that app what is it? The first app. Once you get everybody organized, I found it really helpful just to tell me who I need to speak to. And it's incredible. It's really creepy. I don't talk to anybody outside the industry about it because it really does sound like I'm creeping. But it records what people are doing online and predicts their the possibility of them buying a home and what time frame. So, 1, 2, or 3 stars. So if you are under a time crunch and you need just to get some calls in for the day, go to that. It'll help you prioritize your day. It's a little expensive, so you need to have your budgets in line with your business plan. And contact me. I've got a great, easy business plan. Evaluate who's around you. Your friends are friends, but sometimes you can surround yourself with the wrong ones. And that means those people that are potentially they're an energy suck. A fun sponge. Those are the people that you just don't want to be around because you're supporting them. When you need to find people that are inspiring you as much as you to them, and just being with like-minded, energetic, happy people is really what's going to help you because this is such an industry of ups and downs. You need to find your support group. Once you've prioritized your clients and you're using all those the technology through Ninja, the next thing, like we were talking about with the assistant or the team, is to start delegating these tasks because, like we said earlier, you're not going to excel at everything, and you need to find someone who balances that out so that you can help them. We started a program earlier in the year before COVID. We spent a month and a half with my mentee John and myself, 3 very balanced personalities. Not completely opposite, but we balanced each other out really well. And we came out with our 12-week drip campaign. And it would have taken me much, much longer. And it's something I've been trying to work on for the past year or two that I was able to do with them. We were approaching it from 3 different ways, finding things that we all found interesting about the buying process. And we're about to move on to the listing process for our listing leads, but all this took place. Now we're all online. However, find your team of people that can help you, and you can support each other with those kind of things. Delegation will save you a lot of time. And let's see here, track your progress. Again, one of those key elements to that Ninja notebook is the fact that you can look back through your day or your week and see how much you were able to get accomplished. I use a highlighter, just highlight it as I go. And on that personality, that if I did something and it wasn't on my list, I write it down and then highlight it. That's me. The other thing I love to do at my office is I have my board of my leads, my listing leads, my seller leads, my buyer leads, and then all my contracts, so that I'm reminded who I need to keep in touch with. And so that each Friday or each week, I know what I need to do. Now, there's a certain number of things that I don't do. I deviate from the Ninja program in that I don't write my two notes a day. I will tend to write like 300 4 times a year. And that's to back up, like, for instance, that marketing update that we had in January, the one that just came out, probably something later in the summer and then one at the end of the year again. If I handwrite something, they'll see something from me coupled with the calls that I make. I get my numbers in, but it's probably just not consistent like they'd like us to do it. But that, track what you're doing and find a way to reward yourself, which is hard to do when you're a new agent, don't have necessarily cash on hand to do that. But maybe it's just walking down the street to get that beer at a takeout place, which I love now. I hope that sticks around. Who doesn't like a margarita walking on the sidewalk? I mean, it's like the birth of New Orleans. Sounds great.
Yeah, no, for sure. I hope that's something that sticks around too. Is that's one of those after COVID things I hope carries over.
Oh yeah. We think about Sundays, and oh God, boy, life has changed in the past decade.
Yeah. Well, those are some great tips, Butch, and obviously it's cool to see somebody who lives them, as you do. And you know what, you make a great point about the 2 notes a day, the recommendation from Ninja as part of the Ninja 9. But in speaking to a lot of folks, it's a recommendation. As long as you're doing things to stay in touch and to stay in flow with your people, the frequency is, one of those things that's important, but you're doing it on a frequent basis. You're just doing it kind of more consolidated at one point in time, but you're actually doing activities, which is the key thing. Before I cut you loose, anything, you mentioned a little bit ago about why you chose Harry Norman, but is there anything in particular that you think Harry Norman really does to help support you and your goals in your business?
I appreciate how we've adapted to the Ninja way, because again, it can get really overwhelming to produce and do as much as they're recommending or requiring what they're suggesting we do. So I really appreciate all of the collateral that we're getting, we're producing consistently now. And it's just less time we all have to spend doing this. Now, I love it. I love my little postcards we come out with monthly. And however, it's just sometimes we just don't have the time for it. But the numbers thing, I will come up with a fun brunch card on what to do for a Sunday fun day or where to go for your best ice cream and barbecue. But coming up with where our city is going and some sort of like financial outlook for the market, that's not me. So Todd, I appreciate those that have been coming out, because I know my clients do, because how much ice cream and barbecue can you eat? So that's what I appreciate about the company.
Nice. Well, we are very blessed to have Luke Tridwell on our team now. He's done some amazing things with the corporate marketing team over the last, it'll be a year coming up here pretty soon for his anniversary. So I'm glad that you appreciate some of those things that are done. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to just share or touch on? Any last words of advice?
Look at that business plan, man. Evaluate what you're spending your time on versus what you thought you'd be spending your time on, and refocus on that. It's, you see these restaurants that are now essentially liquor stores that used to have the best tapas in town, but now are making their money off of liquor. We need to do the same thing. We need to evaluate where we're finding our clients, the way they want to see us, the message we're putting out there, and above all, just have fun with it.
Great. Well, I knew this was going to be a fun conversation because you're an awesome guy to talk to. I always enjoy catching up with you whenever I get a chance to see you. And I can't thank you enough for your time today. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you to John for stepping in, even though he's a little camera shy. But no, we thank you for everything, Butch. Is he still on the side there? Tell him to come back in and just give us a little wave goodbye there.
Oh, he's already done. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
House
well,
video. Thanks, Todd.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.